This conference will now be recorded.
Thanks, Janelle. Before we begin, just a reminder, we need say your name for the motion if we have any action, and or raise your hand or click a hand up saying that you want to speak, just so we're not talking on top of each other. Thank you. I call the meeting to order. I would like a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting on June 10th.
Sean, I would make a motion to approve the minutes from June 10th.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. I do want to add one thing about the minutes, small, but spelling error with Gretchen Otness's name. There's one T in it, just for the record. All those in favor say aye. Thumbs up.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Are there additional items to be added to the agenda? I would like to add one thing under number 2, so like about a 2.5, have Steve Okens with the sales tax update. Any other additions to the agenda? I would like to proceed with flexibility in case something comes up. I need a motion to accept the agenda. Audrey's motions. Somebody want to, and Tony seconds it. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Wave. Perfect. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Let's speak to Steve Okens with the sales tax update, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, you should have all received an email, and I do apologize for not sending this out earlier, with the sales tax that has been receipted to date. And again, I'd just like to remind the committee that the months that are listed across the top of the report are a month after the actual collections. So the city has received actual collections through the month of March, which was the first month that involved the shutdown for COVID-19. We have received estimates for the months of April and May. The average for October through March would be roughly $167,000 a month, which is below the projected $250,000. The 167, if you annualize that out, is a little over $2 million. The 250 again would be $3 million. So we are running behind, but the numbers are looking, especially the estimates for April and May, a little better than what we had anticipated due to the COVID-19 shutdown. One of the items, and I've been talking with the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Commission, Aaron Bachman, trying to analyze again the city sales tax versus the county sales tax, and some of the possible reasons for the numbers that are coming in. One of the items that we have discussed is the online, and I know that that's been one of the items that the committee has wanted to obtain, is what are the ramifications of the change in the law on online sales. And one of the items and reason why we're looking at that is because of the numbers maybe not dropping as rapidly as what we thought they might. And an example would be, I'll use the example, I was coming home from vacation, stopped at a sporting goods store, and their inventory for the item I was looking for was non-existent. The shelves were just about empty. And so then my alternative is to go online and order it from the same retail store, and then they'll find all the stores and send it to me. And so then I will actually pay the local option sales tax. Whereas if I would have bought it at the store at the location I stopped at, I would not have. So that's one item that I sent a second email asking them to provide some online sales information, and I'll provide that once we get it. The other item, and the mayor has talked about this, and he talked a little bit about it on open mic, is buying local. And the buying local, I think, is helping some of these numbers. They're still not at where we thought they were, but we continue to analyze and have discussions and try to see where these numbers will fall in. And again, as I mentioned in last month's report, the actual numbers for April and May, which were the primary months of shutdown, we will not know until August and September. So, but again, if there's information that the committee would like to see in a monthly report and a format, just email me and I'll be more than happy to format the report and provide the information that committee members are interested in.
Are there questions? John Conold?
So Steve, so would this, is this online included in these numbers, or would that be an additional amount that we received from online orders later on down the road? It just lags behind, or is this includes the online sales?
This should include the online sales. And again, if you'll see March, I'll use March, it's under the April column, that are actually March collections. You'll see that the state did not reconcile that until the 9th of June. And so there's always kind of a little over 2 month lag between the actual collections and what they send us. So, but these do include the online sale collections.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Steve? Okay. You know what, for the record, Janelle or Brian or somebody, should I have done attendance so that we have it on record? Okay, so Dennis Anderson, Audrey Nelson.
Here.
John Conold,
Present.
Tony Ammon. He waved. Matt Dawson. Mary Swatsky present. Sean Muskie.
Here.
Bob Poe. And I am just going to our other committee members, Mayor Kelvin. Brian Gromitz.
Here. Here.
Steve Okens.
Here.
Rob Baumgarn.
Here.
Sean Christensen. And he may not have been invited. Janelle Summers, do we need to invite her? Is Julie Osmus on? Brian Caith, James Miller, Rachel Stretbeck might jump on in a little bit. Gretchen Otness.
Here.
Anybody I missed, just for the record? All right. Going on to updates from the subcommittees. I would like, if Rachel's on, she can add to this, but we're have an update with the Robbins Island project. Rob, I believe you are going to help out with some updates.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. We got some exciting news when we open up the bid package. On June 23rd, we did receive 3 bids for the road and parking lot projects. Very competitive bids, but the lowest bid came in at 1.179 million and some change. So very good news for us, because we're actually looking at that project to be close to that $2 million range. So very good news for that, for the parking lot and water main improvements that will happen at the island. It will be going to the Public Works, Public Safety Committee meeting tonight for more discussion and move it on to the council for approval, and then get the contract ready to sign. With Dunix was the low bidder, and then we can get the projects going here as soon as possible.
Are there questions? John?
Rob, will they then be doing the shelters as well since the bids came in so low?
Not at this moment. I know that the subcommittee group is going to try to meet next week to kind of get a priority list with that, but they will have to bring it back to the Invest in Willmar committee to make sure that the funding is going to be available for those shelters. And then it would have to go up through the process like this one as well.
And if I may add, Rachel did text me those same sentiments. She wanted to put in, be transparent with the Invest in Willmar board that because of the bids coming in low, and since the park is already going to be closed for those updates, that she's hoping that they are proposing to reconvene and come up with a plan or decide what to do with those shelters. And so wanted to give us a heads up that they may be back visiting us. Mayor Kelvin. Whoops, Marv.
Yeah,
There you go.
sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. I just want to remind the committee that the council has ruled that they wanted us to go forward with the flat work. And I think we need to be respectful of that. I think if you meet again as a board and carry some type of a recommendation, but I think the recommendation of the council and the direction of the council is to move with the flat work. So let's get that work done, get that accomplished, and then see where we go from there. I don't want to throw a wet blanket on it, but this has been in front of the council twice, so let's not outweigh our welcome as well. I'm not sure if the council members wish to weigh in or not.
Sean.
I would agree with the mayor's comments. We did talk about this already. It is good news to hear that it's coming under bid, but to reintroduce those things at this time might be a little premature. I don't know what the appetite will be, where the council may want to go, but we definitely want to get was the word flat works that you're talking about. We do want to get those things done as fast as we can. So, I mean, things are trending in a better direction than we were before. And we're hoping that that keeps in that direction, but I would echo what the mayor was saying.
I don't know who caller CO is. Is that somebody that might have any information on Robin's Island?
Can you hear me? This is Rachel.
Oh, good. Hi, Rachel.
I was able to call in.
Well, we are on your topic right now, and had Rob had discussed that the bids came in looking nice, and there could be a future for looking at additional alternates to your project. Did you hear Councilmember Muskie and Mayor Kelvin's comments?
No, unfortunately, I logged in right when I heard the end of Mayor Marv's comments, and I couldn't then follow what it was at.
Could you just quickly review that again, Marv, just to have it clarified for Rachel, since she is the chair of that committee?
Rachel, this is Marv. The council has addressed this on 2 separate occasions, and I feel very strongly that we need to follow the direction the council has provided to the Local Option Sales Tax Committee, and we should get the flat work done, make that happen, and then get these other projects that the council has given the green light on, move forward, and then see where we're at on funding. I mean, our funding numbers are looking good. Steve Okens gave a very positive report. And but I think that we need to concentrate on the project that was bid, get that approved by council, and not muddy the water. So I think we should just continue with the process that we have. I know it's not what you want to hear, but I think it's in the best interest of the community.
Okay.
May I just interject, thinking outside the box, if things, granted, I understand what you're saying, but if the time right now, things are under construction, can we place a shelter out there after that construction is done without needing other infrastructure done? Or is this one of those projects that needs to be tied in together?
Rob might be best to answer that, but I think now that the bids have come in, separate, that we didn't add any alternates, that, and these were something that we were looking, maybe we could probably save even more money because it would be sending it out through the city, versus with Bolton and Mink, under Bolton and Mink's umbrella. It could be at the discretion of city staff and, city council then, but I'll let Rob take the lead to best answer that.
I don't know if there's necessarily any infrastructure that would need to be placed as far as like water lines and that sort of infrastructure, because a lot of the shelters that we have out there right now do not have that capability. Some of them do have electricity to them. So unless we move the shelter locations, then boring or trenching would need to happen to get power to the desired location.
Okay, any other discussion? Rachel, thank you for your work on the committee, and it will be fun to see August approach.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it too. And we look forward to hopefully rehashing this maybe next year in the fall again, since the bids did come under so low, and we do have that money to get Robbins Island done, and through the list that we promised the community. So looking forward to finishing it off sooner versus later.
Good, stay engaged. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Going on to a report from Swanson Project. I will be giving that report. June has been a very busy month for the committee, as well as with architecture firms and all that comes with that. So the subcommittee, we met June 2nd, and then with the actual architect firm, indicating and giving us a estimated project budget. And given that this is an estimate of what our project cost, so it came back that we needed to look at cutting or putting on an alternate list, $364,000. Now, I hope that we are like the Robbins Island project and everything comes in lower and we can include everything right away. But the committee made it a priority and agreed to keep and have the money be invested in the playing surface environment that will allow us to be able to play and to relieve some of the use of existing fields. And so we are continuing with having Orange or Elsie Clementson Field be the premier field, blue, and then across the service road there as an improvement, but we cut back on some of the things that we wanted to. We're looking at blue, however, as alternates. They would be added in as money would be seen or had. We looked at the improvements of the 3 softball fields out there, and we cut that to improving 2 out of the 3 softball fields, having the 3rd one be an add-in if we have enough money. We decided to, or agreed to put on the weight or the alternate list, the shelter and the playground components, as that has nothing to do with playing the game. And then also have in the alternate the brown shed improvements. Some of the things, our next meeting is going to be July 15th, where we are reviewing, once we gave the architecture firm the items that we were willing to take out. Now they had to go back to the drawing board and decide, how to write that all up. And so with that, we will know a little bit more on July 15th and going forward. Some of the challenges that we've had in, knowing that it was only an estimated budget, project budget proposal, we had to cut, that almost $400,000. With the cost, the soft costs and the professional fees that right now that we had to equate into that formula is $541,000 out of the $2 million project. So hoping that with some clarification down the road, if all of those comes to fruition, that maybe we can add some more projects in, but we have to have all those fees in there just in case. So we're moving along, but the Woodseth, who is our Woodseth, which is our architecture firm, has a very optimistic schedule for completion by the year's end. That's with no hiccups in between. So I like their optimism. Other questions? Sean.
No questions. I just want to say thank you for what your committee put together. That was very clear and articulate, and it gives us a great roadmap to move forward. And that is a great example of how this process should work. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Everything was made a little bit harder also through Zoom. So I hope you understand these committees are really working hard, and with the conditions that we have to work under has been quite challenging. So I appreciate your comments, Sean. Any other thing for Swanson? Okay, moving on to recreation fields. Tony, John?
Sure, Mary, thanks. We don't have any really updates from the last time, since we're looking at next year possibly, but just to kind of recap what our priorities are is, again, just like Mary stated with Swanson, our goal is to get as much playing surface for people to put their feet down on as possible. So, we have our listed of our priorities is 4 softball fields, fully irrigated, seeded, with fencing around all of them, and also making one of those fields kind of a championship field with a full dugout, with brick dugouts, and and then also bleachers for all the 4 fields, wiring for scoreboards, storage shed with concessions in the centerpiece as well, and also, let's see here, in batting cages and a bullpen, for, depending on the cost of things, is how many we can add in with our alternates. As for the rec fields, we really would like to make sure that we have the 2 turf fields, and then there comes some questions that I have for our committee to move forward. Before we, because we may have 2 priority lists or 2 alternate types of lists, is we need to, I don't know, and I don't know if this is possible, we need to ask the question is the city, or when would the city, are we going to be able to install that bubble 6 months out of the year, with the operating costs going anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a month? I know there'll be some revenue that would come in through that, but it would not cover the full expenses for utility costs. So we kind of, in our next meeting, that's one of the discussion points that we need to have is, do we prep for putting a bubble in, the groundwork for it, or if the city is not going to have the appetite to do that for another 5 years, do we just go ahead with our other alternates in place of the bubble? So that's kind of a question that I have, and I'd like to hear some of your guys' opinions on what your thoughts are. So we have a direction as a subcommittee where we want to take our list, or do we want to have just two separate type of avenues? Any thoughts? I don't know if the council members could weigh in on any of this.
Sean?
John, I honestly think it's too early to tell on that one. I mean, I have no idea. I would expect, again, numbers are going to keep getting more promising, but it seems that it's really early in the game to be able to know what kind of revenues we're going to have that far out. I would say it's probably more important for your committee to kind of get to the priority of, you know, which one is more important to you to put forward, and then we'll cross that bridge when we have to. But I wish I had a more definitive answer. And for me personally, I just have no idea.
Audrey? Audrey?
I would just comment just in general, I don't think we've looked at operating costs at all for any of them. So it's hard to just pass judgment on the, you know, on the one piece. And I agree with what Sean said in that, you know, as I stated before, if we have to wait to do it and do it right, then, you know, but I don't know what that means either, John, from the standpoint of, you know, when is the right time? And, you know, until we can afford to do the field itself, we might not be able to make that decision about the rest of it either. So I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, when we meet, we will put together our lists and we will rank them as best we can. And we'll just have everything available for the next step when we bring it to you guys, when we get that approval to bring it to you. But we'll just have all those scenarios in place for the committee. Tony, do you have anything you want to add with this one?
Yeah, I wonder if Rob could help us out. If we had a bubble and it was fully rented, could he do a pro forma of what kind of revenue that would generate, and then also kind of balance that out with costs? And we could look at, you know, if it's fully rented, and then we can certainly go 3/4 or 50% rented, and to see if that does anything to the equation as far as balancing out the costs, or how would that go? Rob, would that be something you could do?
Yeah, that won't be a problem. I've been gathering information on utility costs from other bubble owners per se, that there's a group of 25 managers per se that are part of this group that talk about bubbles, just like what they do with ice rings. So I've been slowly getting their information in on what, you know, how they rent things out, what the prices are, what type of programming that they do, and what their utilities costs are from different temperatures that they keep it at, from how much light that they actually have on during the day compared to night. So there's a wide range of things that we can look at.
That would be great. That would be great. Thank you.
Mayor Calvin first, and then Councilmember Nelson.
John, my 2 cents on what you should be looking at is exactly what both Sean, a combination of what Sean and Audrey have said. And but remember that we're looking at 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. So we don't want to be looking at our feet. We want to be looking to the future. And if we need to slow down on construction simply to be in a positive position, we should look at that. But at the same time, we shouldn't be short-sighted. So I would be more supportive of making sure you have the infrastructure in place so that if and when it allowed you to go to that route, you would, because it's going to be a lot more expensive to have to tear it all back up just to put those footings back in. So when you put the stuff in on the front side, it's cheaper than when you put it in on the back side. And so I agree with the comment of do your forecasting, but at the same point, make sure that you're looking to the future, not looking for next year. That's just my comments.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nelson?
Sorry. I think this is more of a question, but we have a document attached that's listed as the master plan. And so I just have a question, if that is something that's finalized, is that something that I'm going to ask Mr. Gramitz, I think, is it something that the council should be looking at? And it doesn't include all the land. And so, you know, if the curlers come and ask us to do something, or we can start something, should we have adopted this as a master plan? Or because we don't know when we're going to be able to do this, do we not want to do that so that we can be flexible and make changes when we are ready? I'm just curious about that one. So, but I'm curious what staff thinks about that, because if the curlers are ready to go and they want to have a location, I guess that's been my concern with the master plan, is you only get one chance to do it right. So what are we doing?
City Administrator?
Yeah, I guess I would anticipate that based on the recommendations of the subcommittee, that here are the sequence of events that, or sequence of projects that you want to have occur, that you know, plan gets approved in addition to the we'll call it the facility master plan. So it sets the footwork in order so that land can be set aside for the curlers in that specific spot, if that's what the park board and city council want to have happen. So yeah, the short answer is yes, I would get the subcommittee's information, and 2, I would have the city council adopt that this is what the footprint would want to be look like when it's all done, and that we just sequentially add the pieces as funding becomes available.
So for clarification, I know that I'm on the right track. I believe Councilmember Nelson had talked about the, and I don't know if I can do it, but that plan there is that the one that you're saying probably go to city council to get, and that was attached to our information, but get that in the books as the project going forward. But also the other thing that we are going to address is making sure that the priority list that is coming up in a few minutes that we're going to talk about is also approved by the city council.
I would think so, yeah, because for me, you have to have the master plan of what you want done. And then as you schedule things in to be completed, you're not wrecking something that you already constructed. You know, it's kind of you put in the correct sequence. So not only is it a priority, but it makes sense in construction process. So you don't want to sit there and rebuild the locker rooms and then, you know, a year later rip the wall back out because you're putting on a kitchen or whatever. You know, it needs to make sense, and I think it's set up to do that. And so that's what the footprint is all about. And then the sequence that comes out of the subcommittee identifies the parts that you want to do first and ones that don't impact projects like further down the road. You can add to it, but you're not wrecking something that you're already constructed. So yeah, you heard what I said, and I understand what you're saying back to me as to be the same thing. Yes.
Councilmember Nelson, and then I have a question for Rob.
So this plan just shows a specific area. I think we need the whole, where the softball fields are going to be. What does it mean that we're moving on the school land? Kind of the whole thing. Where do the bike trails end up being? How does the roads, you know, kind of, this is just showing one location, and we're talking about a much bigger piece of land than that. I think it would be helpful to visualize, you know, the flow and all of those things in addition, and maybe I'm not seeing it completely. So.
Ms. Gramitz?
Yeah, that would be the ultimate thing to have, but we're dealing with 2 separate architects. And we, in order to do that, you probably won't have like one piece of paper with the master plan on it, unless we want to hire one of the architects to take architect two's plan and put it on, their document kind of a thing. So since this is really more the rec event center plan, we have to wait until the plan is put together on the softball fields and the rec fields. And then you can put the two documents side by side and see how it all fits together. So I guess that's my answer. Two separate architects, you're going to get two separate products.
So Tony, before you, I call on you, Rob, that was going to be my question was, can you magically put something together at least so we could see a footprint of what we're talking about? Or are you understanding in your head all these steps?
Yes, the architects have been talking to each other about how the rec fields and the event center would collaborate together because there was supposed to be an entryway or a connection to the building from the Civic Center to the bubble. So they've been talking that way about how much area that they need and space and everything like that. So there is an overview of that I can probably get from either Dana at Winseth or David from LSE. So we could see the softball fields and how the two turf fields would look and where the bubble would be at and everything like that. They've got parking lots where they're supposed to be at as well. So those conversations have happened, and the subcommittees have seen those as well.
And if I may just give my opinion, I think that's great, and I'm glad that that's going forward. I don't know, and I don't want to give on this time a lot of credence to where and what's happening with curling club, because that's not our charge. I understand that it should fit in here, but I don't want to that can be an offline situation. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. But I just hope that we can concentrate on making sure that our projects that we need to get forward, go forward. And the curling club, for whatever, I don't know if they're at the beginning, middle, or end stage, but I don't want to get anything held up because they are at the beginning and we're at the end for this project. But that's just my opinion. Anybody else? Did I see a hand up and I didn't call on you?
Tony Almond.
Tony, sorry.
Yeah, no, my point was just what Rob was saying. Both committees have seen the overview of the site plan as the architects are working together to tie in one of the turf fields with the bubble. And so they are working together. So hopefully we're not gonna duplicate work or waste the taxpayers' money. So, and then I just to clarify a point that the chairman made, you mentioned that the curling club should be here. Is that what you said, or?
No.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
I understand they can be a part of this add-on or whatever, but that's their baby. And I think we need to make sure that our projects go forward, and whatever other conversations that need to be done with the curling club be offline. I mean, and that wasn't a disrespect to anybody who made any comments today, but I just, going forward, I don't know, I'm not privy to that information, and I know that they might need a spot, but I don't want to give them a whole lot of airtime until they're at the end of their project and it fits in, I guess. But
Mary, can I
any
add?
other comment?
We've had conversations with the crews, and they've been informed of the processes and everything, and they understand that Invest in Willmar is Invest in Willmar, and the curlers are the curlers, and they're fully aware of where everyone's at. And been part of the process at the beginning of understanding where their facility can go and everything like that. So they're fully aware of what's going on.
Great. Thanks for that clarification or add-on. Moving on to the event center. Gretchen, are you still on with us? Yes. Do you have any movement or questions, clarifications, questions for us?
No, we have nothing at this time. Nothing's changed on our end. We are basically just waiting for money. Whenever there's money for us to move forward with any portion of ours. We already, we shared our list last time, so we're just kind of at a standstill holding position right now.
And I just want you to know that I want to continue to invite you to these meetings. It may or may not necessarily pertain to you, but our process does. And if you can learn something from our cumbersome process that you don't have, that you can figure out a way to do better, that's the intent of having just everybody on board, so that, because now we are getting done figuring out what the Invest in Willmar board is supposed to be doing in our process. But we're moving into the projects. And so I just want to continue to invite you to our meetings, even if you have nothing to say, just pass or bring somebody else on if you're not available on our future meetings. So thank you for your work and your patience in waiting.
Thanks.
Community Center, Julie, Brian, I think I saw Councilmember Osmus on.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be speaking. I was just listening. But we're the same as the event center. We're just on hold until decisions are made about the City Hall and Community Center.
Do you have any communications with City Hall or City Hall? Do you have any communications that I know Julie's on the council, but for the rest of the people, are there any updates for those of us that don't watch you twice a month, beginning to end?
Are you asking me or
anybody?
Mark,
Mayor?
go.
Yeah, I think this is the same thing that we talked about a little bit earlier. The council has given direction that the City Hall and the Community Center are on hold for right now. And until the funding changes, we're going to stay in that pattern. So I think Julie's report is pretty accurate that they're waiting for funding.
Any other comments before I make one? I would just want to throw something out there and might open a can of worms, but that's okay. But I'm at the liberty that I am today, that I don't know what the timeline is for the City Council. I know that we have 13 years, well, actually 12 and a half years with collecting money for the local option sales tax. Will the community project, we don't have to get all this done in year 1, 2, or 3. I understand that. But looking forward, is the community, is the community center project at liberty to investigate some other alternatives if they decide that they want to, with an unknown start time for City Hall, whether that's because of money, because of COVID, whatever it might be. But is there ever an opportunity to separate these two projects going forward? I understand that that's probably a whole process, but it's just something that I would like to have folks think about outside the box. And with that, enough said. Thanks, Julie. I'm moving on to agenda number 4, and Dennis Anderson was going to take this piece of the discussion and just do a review of the process. I am going to take that over for Dennis. So all of you have the attachments with the Board of Directors, Invest in Willmar and our charge, and then also the Invest in Willmar subcommittee policy. and all those, their charge under our, that we all agreed in April, I believe, of 2019. So the one question that I want to bring up is on, it's my page 2 of the Board of Directors attachment. And about 3/4 of the way down, it says, board will receive or may request in-person periodic reports from the subcommittee in review process. And that's what we did tonight. But, oh wait, excuse me, go to the last page where under the schedule project approval meetings, number 6, where it says at least one community-wide meeting was held to solicit the input of the subcommittees. In the time of COVID, and I'm at this part right now looking to have a community-wide meeting with Swanson Field. I think we need to just review what is this process. And I believe it's happened with Robbins Island, but I think it's essential that we talk about this as an Invest in Willmar board, to just have everybody on board to say, what is this community-wide meeting? Given I'm not too comfortable being in the community inside a building and showing my project. But if that's what I have to do, I guess that's what I have to do. I've asked Rob to give us a little bit of his thoughts with this process, and then I'd like to have some input from the rest of you.
What we talked about was very similar to what we would do at council meetings, that we would have a call-in feature. The architect would be presenting the information to the community, and if they have questions, they can do a call-in feature where they would be in the room, and then the IT department would be able to tell us who's available and what and get them on the line basically, and have them answer questions and concerns, and then we can address them at that way. So very similar to when we had to do council meetings that way. I did talk to the architect about that. He'd be very comfortable with that as well. So it's just now, if that's the process that we need to do while we're in COVID, that's what we would have to do, in my opinion, in order to get the public input.
So how do we get that message out to the people so they know that we have a community-wide meeting?
It would go as a public notice. We would put it on Facebook, do the social media and everything like that, what we possibly can do to get the information out with the call-in feature.
Is that then one meeting, or to be friendly to our community? Do we add 2 meetings? I want to be transparent with our community. I don't want it to go on and on and on, because right now I know that we're going to be under a time constraints with Swanson if we're going to put the shovel in the dirt. But what is the recommendation from the city council, or do you have any recommendations from the city council, or how we can get this done? Brian, did you unmute yourself for a reason?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that when you hold a public meeting, that does not necessarily mean that's the first time people get to see this information. That's just the opportunity for public input. So you can provide information, whether it's on social media or the city website or Rack 8, you could do a presentation. And 2 weeks before you hold your public meeting, people can be versed in what the information is. It gives them time to think about questions. So it doesn't have to be like, tonight's a public meeting and this is the first time anybody's going to see this. They could have been looking at this stuff for 2 weeks, which then makes the public meeting, much more valid, because they've had 2 weeks to think about their questions. So I think it's a respectable way of doing business in today's environment. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. I would prefer to have the meeting room and everybody walking around saying, oh, I like this, I don't like that. but that's not where we're at. And so that's probably the best thing we could probably achieve. So those are just my thoughts.
Would that also include like open mic?
Yeah, I mean, we get the information out there, people see it, and then we hold the public meeting and they can call in and ask questions and debate the issue, whatever it might be. It might take a little bit longer, but the mechanism that we've been working under for council meetings and these kind of meetings are all, somebody's logging on and you've got video, and if you don't have video, you got a telephone that you can at least communicate with. So, like I say, I think the call-in feature is the good part of getting the public input. If people are interested, they'll take the time to call.
Okay. Congressman Muskie.
Well,
Nelson,
that's an elevation of my position. Congressman, wow. But I will say, it depends what
Congressman, did I say that? Council member.
No, that's cool. I would say though, it depends what you really want to get after. If you're after getting public input, then I would set up other mechanisms than just a one-time meeting. I think there's been a lot of good suggestions for that, because I've been around a few of these public meetings to see that they can go any direction, and then you may not get a lot of positive information that you're looking for. So I would recommend putting together, again, the legwork up front of what the project looks like, and have a way that people can chime in and give some feedback through other mechanisms other than just a one-time meeting. I think it would be much more valuable. But if we're just trying to check off that we had a meeting, that's a different story. I would hope that's not what we're trying to do. If we want to get really good feedback from the public, I'd set up the way that they can get that ongoing instead of a one-time event, because sometimes people don't show up. Sometimes people that really hate your project are the only ones that show up, and there's all kinds of things that can happen. So that'd be my 2 cents.
Thank you. I agree with that. Council, Audrey?
I was going exactly where Mr. Gramitz was going, in that it shouldn't just be that night, but we've got activities going on. The rec department's doing stuff. There are people, they're holding classes and baseball and all of those things. And even just to have a board somewhere so you can tell me, hey, the maps are out there, you can go look at them or whatever, and then we're going to hold a meeting. But I think you can also social media, the chamber, the CVB, the EDC, they'd all be willing to put it out there for people to look at, so that people have that chance to look at it, know who they can ask about it, and then hold that public meeting like we talked about. But get it out there in front of people to see, so that they have a chance to look at the document. Even though you can't do it inside an enclosed building, I would think we could be creative enough to find a way to let people know it's available.
Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
The things that the people that are probably going to be most engaged in this are going to be your baseball people. And so, the Rails are playing, the Stingers are playing, just a booth there, asking them if you can set up outside. Just have your little display with, your trifold brochures and your presentation boards. And like has been mentioned already, we've got our youth softball, they're playing. It's too bad that Legion's not playing, but there are other people still playing. And go to the parks. I mean, I live by Miller Park here, as you know, and the Grow Mobile was there this morning, and they had a whole crowd of people around them. So I think what Sean mentioned is probably really hitting the nail on the head, and that is that we're not trying to check a box. Because if we wanted to check a box, we would just put it on the city's information page and say we checked the box. But what we're trying to do is get information. So if we go to the people that we know are going to use those spaces, softball's playing right now, get out to the softball and just say, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. And it's going to be more labor intensive for us, but I'm committed to do that. I mean, if you need somebody to sit on one of those, I'm committed to be there. Because this project is really important. And I think the time frame that you're talking about, the sooner we get on board with that, the better. You could put it on Facebook and you would have comments coming back on that right away in both manners, positive and negative. And I think most council members have a Facebook page. And, you know, if the administrator sent out something to make sure you share that on your personal Facebook page, the city's got at least a half a dozen. You know, Rob and his department, they've got their own, the police department's really gets a lot of hits. And so there's a lot of ways to do what we're trying to do, which is educate the people.
Those are all great. Love it. And that's what was bothering me, was just this one way of technology. But we need more heads to solve a problem, and we just did it. So thank you. Would we put an addendum, or do we need to revise our document per COVID, how we're going to, you know, because or don't we have to be specific in our charge here with having one community-wide meeting was held to solicit input? Is that still fine? We don't have to change it going forward? Perfect. I'm seeing no objection. Okay, that's great. Any other comments about the guidelines for either committee, of Invest in Willmar or the subcommittee? Okay, other business, number 5 on the agenda. Just to let you know, the Park and Rec Board is on their agenda on July 15th is the Invest in Willmar priority list is going to the Park and Rec Board on July 15th. Correct, Rob? You have that on the agenda.
Yes, I've talked to John a little bit about who's going to be representing and all that type of stuff. So just need to know who's going to be there for the invite and everything, so we can discuss everything. So
okay, we'll do some more homework on that, preparing ahead of time. Any other things, or I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So done. 1 p.m. Thank you all.